It still says
We're live.
I see the live thing in the corner. Here we go.
Yeah, that means we're live. The little yellow box.
Yeah,
That says
officially.
live.
All right. And so I am the voice of the radio. No, just kidding.
Hey, that's what you call me, man.
I know. Sorry. So I'm Chris with Cowdog Craftworks, and I am joined by PJ with the Evolution of Tables, as well as Arturo, the Chop Master. And this week we have a very special guest, Caleb Harris from You Can Make This Too. Caleb, give us a holla.
Holla.
Challah. That's a type of Jewish bread, isn't it?
It is.
I think so.
It's the holla that makes you holla.
It's challah bread. Yeah. I don't think you pronounce the C again.
Yeah. No C's,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Despite requiring 3 C's, it has no C's.
It has-
Ooh.
Yeah. Anyway, we are Ask Me About My Wood. And fellas, let's actually start with Caleb. What have you been up to, man?
So I've been up to making things and making videos about making things.
Attaboy.
Basically.
Yeah.
So
Sweet and
that's
simple.
basically what I'm always do. So more specifically, I got a friend of a friend commission. I've known this guy, but we're not super tight. He wanted to surprise his fiance for her birthday. Apparently, she always beats him at gifts and was like, "We just bought a house and they're getting married soon." It's like, so I want to make her a table. It's like, well, I can do that. So he had a couple pictures of stuff she really liked, sent me some. So it's a farmhouse table and bench. So it's behind me.
Oh, the legs.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the
that is.
upside down turned legs, because I just attached the base yesterday. The top is like a 1.5 inch maple that I dye stained with General Finishes medium dye. So it's more of a walnut, because she wanted that whole
Okay.
like clean white base, dark top.
Beautiful job, dude. Wow.
And I was like,
Look at that.
dude, you probably don't want to pay for walnut, so let's just get maple. It's like a third of the board foot price, and
Yeah.
we'll do it up. See, I'll try to get out of the way a little bit. Here's the bench.
Did you turn those legs?
Oh, delicious.
No, I
God.
didn't. So yeah, here's a great secret. Never turn legs. Amazon. I got all of them for like 150, 180 bucks.
Oh my God.
For the bench and the table. Now they're pine. If you go through like tablelegs.com, you can get maple.
Okay.
Because I did dent these up a little bit. That pine is super soft.
Oh.
But that would have been about twice the cost. Just kind of depends on where you are. And they wanted a rustic look. So, when I ding things up, I'm just like, hey, that's the weathering.
That's my mantra. Yeah, dude. It's been around. It's an antique. It's a reclaimed table.
Exactly. It looks like it's been around for a while. That's exactly what you wanted.
So for all like 3.5 of our listeners, because there's like one midget that's like in the group or something. Can you? Folks that might not actually follow you, Caleb, can you just talk about really briefly, who you are, what your deal is, and let us know where to find you?
Yeah. I'm Caleb. I make videos at You Can Make This Too. About making things
on YouTube, correct?
On YouTube, YouTube, Instagram. I'm on Facebook a little bit, mostly YouTube and Instagram. Short version: how I got here. I was in the Army for about 7 years as an engineer officer. Went to law school because I thought that would be the right thing to do. Started doing this as a sanity check because school makes you neurotic, and it started working. So I decided to do this instead. And to date, that seems like the better choice.
I would agree. That this is the better choice. Yeah. As your attorney, I believe that is much the better choice. So.
Well, we've got 2 attorneys, or 2. I guess you are an attorney, no? Or no?
I never sat the bar because I decided I was going to do this full time because it was working, and I was planning on it. And then I was like, you know what? I don't want to have to deal with like continuing education and bar dues. And there was a time I was like, it'd be cool. I would love to do some pro bono stuff, like with the juvenile court, maybe do some guardian ad litem work. But then I realized you can't even work for free without malpractice insurance unless you're an idiot. Then having to pay for everything. It was like, it would cost me so much money to work for free. This makes no sense. So I was like, if I don't trying to practice law part-time, starting doesn't make any financial sense. If you're retiring out, okay, but
sure.
So I was like, you know what, let's not even do that. And the other big reason was I didn't want all my friends to be like, hey, so you're actually a lawyer though, right? Because I have, and then be like, now I can say, no, actually I'm not a lawyer and I can't help you because it would be illegal and that would make me a criminal.
Yeah.
So
the spokesperson is not an attorney. basically.
I'm not.
So, like, that's our disclaimer for the podcast. We do have a licensed attorney on hand, though, so we're still
we do.
responsible
So if
for
you need
everything
free
we
legal
say.
work, talk
Yeah.
to.
If you have stupid questions, email them to veryheavytables@gmail.com.
Oh, goddamn. Yeah, I get a bunch of stupid questions from cowdogcraftworks@gmail.com all the time.
But what is fun, one of the things I do with that is I've made a like startup law 101 for content creators and makers that I've given at a few conferences. So that's kind of where I've tied in my legal education with that. So talk about LLCs and how to not get in trouble with the IRS and set up your business the right way and do contract review.
Yeah, you and I have talked about that a bunch as far as how, I mean, these guys just need to have good business practices. Really, that's the
Exactly. And most of it isn't even law. It's just good business sense for people who like maybe just never grew up around business or entrepreneurs and know like don't commingle your assets. Contracts aren't bad. It's expectation management. Just put what you expect and stuff like that. Just,
I'm a big fan of commingling assets. Not a fan, but I guess an offender.
Yeah.
Like, because when you start out, you're not ever serious. You know what I mean? You're just kind of like dipping your toe in the water, testing the waters. So it's like, all right, hey, whatever. I'm gonna buy this table saw, for example. Not me, but I'm just saying like a table saw, and it's a $3,000 saw, and you're just like, I want it for me, and not for any business purpose or whatever. I just want to kind of see what happens, and then how do you morph that into like later? Say you're sitting down with an actual accountant, a couple of years later, after you've actually formed an LLC or an S corporation, something like that. You say like, well, I bought this table saw as just some idiot who was trying things out, but now I'm a business. Like, is it separate? I guess. I mean, maybe that's a question for a CPA.
Exactly. That's my number one recurring advice throughout my classes: get a CPA. Get a CPA.
Yeah.
Because I say you'll almost never be sued. Like I almost guarantee 99%, no one in our community is getting sued. Worst case, you're going to get blacklisted by a sponsor. But we don't deal with amounts that will get you sued.
As long as you don't do river tables.
Oh, can't even say. Come on, man.
But you pay your taxes every year.
Exactly.
So get a CPA.
Yeah.
Because you will pay taxes, and you don't want to screw that up because the IRS don't play. They are like the only people who can reach into your bank account and clean it out without a court order. So
ask Wesley Snipes how that works out.
Exactly.
So basically, like get a CPA, like you said, get a CPA.
Get a CPA. Just
keep your stuff organized. Yeah,
every time.
All right. So PJ, I would ask you if you got a CPA, but I'm just going to ask you what you're working on.
Oh, can I finish? One thing I did.
Yeah, go for it, man. This is your time, man.
Right. When my friend of a friend asked me to make this, I definitely pulled a PJ because I do he already knows where this is going, right?
You're sitting on it, aren't you? You're sitting on it right now.
I'm sitting on it right now. And I was like, I mostly do content, not commission. So if my materials are covered and I make some money, that's great because that means at least I don't have to pay for the project.
Sure. And
I was like, yeah, we can do a table. He goes, well, she wants a bench too. And I'm like, okay.
I know the feeling, man. I know.
Like, how much more is that? Like, no, don't worry about it. Like it's all good.
It should be. Yeah, even though it's literally the same amount of work as the table, just a little bit smaller, less sanding, but the same, literally the same amount of joinery and everything. Yeah. I'm gonna do it for free. Whatever.
Yeah, it takes 50 minutes instead of 60 minutes to sand it, but whatever.
You got to tell PJ like the order that you listen to the podcast and how like the free bench thing was super confusing for you.
So I didn't know you guys had a podcast till a couple of days ago. Chris told me about it, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. I'm going to binge listen to it. And so I listened to episode 1, and I was giving him a hard time. I was like, dude, I hope you like this 8 topics in one podcast thing was dude. Like, whoa. Like I turned it on 3 times to listen to it. And I was like, oh man, I'm like halfway through this podcast. It's great. And I realized I was halfway through episode 1 and I thought I was on like episode 3. Yeah. And then he's like, well, It works different with a guest. So listen to episode 4. It's like, okay, so jump to 4. And then he kept telling me that episode 3 was his favorite. So then I listened to 3. Then I finally listened to 2. And I'm like, oh, thank God you give the free bench backstory. Because I'd listened to like the whole podcast. And everyone's giving you a hard time about free benches. And I didn't have the story. I was like, I mean, it makes sense, but there's got to be more to this.
My favorite line was when we had Brian from Rowan and Witch as a guest. And he said something to the effect of like, I pulled a PJ, basically like what you just said. And I paused for a moment and I was like, you know what? I'm actually really happy about this, so that I can be a mirror for you all to look into, so you can see how stupid you look when you do something like that. You know, I was like, that I need to make that some kind of shop wall quote. I need to get some sign maker to cut that out on a scroll saw and put it on the sign.
Well, I think the takeaway, since, you know, I'm guest 2 and we're 2 for 2 being like PJ, it's not that we're, you know, any that behind. Maybe Arturo and Chris are just that much more business savvy, because apparently this is a common mistake. Free benches. Yeah. It's just a trap. We have a hashtag, you know, so whenever people do their commissions, they can just hashtag their free benches.
Yeah. And, you know, you get a bench.
Put it in the contract. Put it in the contract right there on the bottom. Hashtag free benches.
If at any moment I take more than an hour to call you back and I feel bad about it, I'm going to include a bench.
Free bench.
There you go. That includes sleeping overnight. So.
A river bench.
A river bench. Yeah.
Like, throw epoxy in there too. Yeah.
All right, PJ. So I think we can safely move on to you now. So
all right, cool. So I put out on my Instagram story from, you know, I think I did it yesterday in the afternoon. Just a kind of a feeler for people to give me some topics to talk about, because frankly, I didn't have anything to talk about today. But one of Chris's friends, and now my friend, I guess, is Mr. Matt from the Pankova Collectives. He wanted us to address the topic of fastening tabletops to bases, and there are a myriad of ways to do so, from simply gluing it directly to the base, which I would not recommend because wood movement. There are little things called figure 8s. Actually, in the Wood Whisperer's story yesterday on Instagram, I saw he was giving a quick shout out to Izzy Swan for having those. It's a design based off the figure 8 fastener, but instead of just having the 2 holes, it's got a hole in a slot. So let's say you've got your boards, you know, all your tabletop boards are running parallel to each other. Those tabletop boards, the field of the table is parallel to 2 of the rails of the apron. So if the table's expanding and contracting, those apron boards that are parallel to the table are going to be under a lot of tension, and that's where those I forgot what they're called. It's a fast cap product.
I think it's literally called the Izzy fastener.
Izzy, like something slot, or Izzy slot. Oh no, a skirt. Izzy skirt washer. That's what it is. The skirt washer, because Mark was like, "Oh, I can always imagine Izzy wearing a skirt when I think about these things," which is a sight to behold. But there's those. I think those are like a step in the even more right direction.
Yeah, the slot in the hole is better, but not in a sexual way.
Oh my God, that was something. Yeah, me and Caleb kept saying that at Workbench Con. That's a reference from the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Frank.
And I love it because it took you like 10 minutes to explain it to me. And, Actually, I told Chris when he was like, "You've got to be on the podcast." It's like, okay, but just know that every time PJ says something, I'm just going to say, but not in a sexual way, if that's cool. And it's even better if it's not cool. Until he starts drinking or starts cussing. I want to see which happens first.
There was a fair amount of curse words said, I think, at Workbench Con too, man. Fair amount of alcohol, fair amount of curse words. I'm sorry for that, though. You know, hindsight, you know, I wanted to make a good first impression, and I guess
you sure did, buddy.
You did.
So, okay, no glue for fastening a base to a tabletop. Definitely, the skirt washer is IMHO the best option, depending on what kind of design you're going for. If you're going for like more of a Sean Boyd coffee table, there's an inherent issue with the look of it, because you have the small pieces of copper pipe or steel pipe or brass or whatever. There they are. That's Izzy skirt washer. Yep. So it's hard, even though, since it's a coffee table, it's way smaller, so your movement issue is way less. You know, if you're only 20 inches wide, the table might only seasonally move about 1/8 of an inch at the very most. So it's not as big of an issue with a coffee table. If you're a guy like Chris, you've got a domino. You can put the wide mortise setting on the domino and do it that way. Only glue the floating tenon into 1/2 of your joint, so that it basically just kind of sits, and maybe you could let gravity, hold the top down. But then, of course, if you're, lift up the top, it comes off the base.
Yeah, if you have kids, that's probably not a smart way to.
Probably not a smart idea. No. Yes. But then that's pretty much it. Like, what do we got going? Oh, all right, Caleb.
Z-clips, or is that those are?
Here, bring it up.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure those are Z-clips.
No, but I normally use Z-clips, which PJ didn't mention. These.
Those are the wooden ones.
I made
little blocks.
Yes.
Yeah, I made little wood buttons, and my buddy has a domino that we used to. I pushed the easy button, went over to his shop to do the bases, and while we were there, I cut holes in the stretchers for to make buttons. Then I made buttons to go in there. But normally I use Z-clips if I don't use buttons.
Yeah, the Z-clips and biscuit joiner method is a popular one.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, our buddy Rob from Grove and Anchor does that a lot.
Yeah, because I've never used a figure 8. I like Izzy's, I just haven't ordered them because, wood moves laterally, but a figure 8 requires radial movement, has to swing in an arc, and wood doesn't move that way. So I've just never understood how they're really going to work unless you put them like on the ends, not across the
Yes,
width.
exactly. Yeah. I guess on the apron rails that are perpendicular to the field of the table.
Exactly.
That's where they were. But then you're only connecting the top to the base at the head and the foot of the table, basically.
Exactly. So the whole length is unattached.
And even you mentioned the biscuit joiner method with a little button to slide into that slot. Now that's great, but you still have the same issue with the lateral movement on the long side of the table.
No, you don't, because you just have to account for that. You make your slots deep enough. And so at the ends, I push those buttons all the way in because they're going to move left and right, not in and out. Okay. On the long sides, I set them about the finger about halfway so they can move in and out because they're not going to move left and right. If that makes
Problem
sense.
solved.
Relative. Yeah.
Ta-da.
Excellent.
Boom. Same with Z-clips. When I use Z-clips, you just think about which way is the wood going to move and make sure they have room to move.
Or you could just, do what most people in South Florida do because they're pissed off about wood movement and just use a veneer on a piece of plywood. That's it. That's
or just have PJ come fix it for the third time. And
exactly.
Free benches every time.
get a free bench with every visit.
Oh God, I'm so sorry that I've lost money on this job already and I've had to come back to your house 3 times for something that's totally normal. But here's a free bench. I'm going to do this also.
That reminds me. So last night I released a video how to make a flat tabletop, which was the video I got out of this dining table I did because YouTube, I didn't feel needed another farmhouse table build video. So, but I was going to open with that. If you want a flat tabletop, Ashley's has figured this out. You get MDF and you veneer it. Done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. But I mean, yes. Then you also sell your soul.
Yeah, that's it. But,
you sell your woodworking soul.
It's like there's a reason whenever you buy any mass-produced furniture, it's particle board that's veneered.
Yeah. Sure. Because they don't want to deal with callbacks.
Nope.
You don't want to be giving free benches and stuff.
Yeah. How do you think the company got so big? But I mean, you can still. I'm guilty of veneering plywood and selling it, but you can still keep your soul. I think we talked about this last week when Arturo's topic was veneering.
Yeah.
I love a thick veneer. I want to leave at the very least 2 C's on the thickness of my veneer. I want to go like at the minimum like 1/4 inch of a veneer. So you can still treat it like a solid wood table. You can sand the crap out of it. It's going to take you a long time to get through 1/4 inch of material. If you need to refinish after 3-4 decades of having a table, you're still going to have material to work with, and you also get the benefit of it not moving as much. If you do it right, if you've got a good vacuum bag set up, or you have a bunch of weights that you can put down on a huge table,
or you got a place to do it at,
Yeah, that's right. Arturo, you're CNC. You should turn your CNC bed into a big plywood press.
I could.
Yeah,
in essence, but for what? They're down the street from my house and they'll press for me.
Yeah, but you're you're trying to, expand your business, man.
I don't have space for that, man. I gotta expand my bay.
I'm joking.
We barely fit in there the other day. Are you kidding me?
Arturo barely fits in his shop. So
No. It's made specifically for one person. Yeah, and that's it. We proved that the other day.
I felt bad. I was at Arturo's shop the other day, like almost unplugged. Yeah, I'd tripped over the cord, almost unplugged the CNC while it was running, bumping into stuff.
Stop moving. Just sit.
I know. I'm sorry. I was so excited, man. I was too excited to stop moving.
I got Dusko coming today to do his cabinets.
Oh, nice.
Cabinets.
Yeah, just to give people some context, Arturo, how big, square footage wise, is your shop?
Square footage is 25 by 12. Let's do some math.
Well, don't even worry about that. It's a 25 by 12, but then how big is your CNC?
7 or 8 feet by 16.
So that's a third of your shop.
Yeah,
no, it's more
like half.
It's 2/3 of my shop.
The first time I met Arturo, I pull up to his shop to get this piece of tiger wood, and literally he opens the door, and I'm expecting to see a table saw and tools and all this thing, and all I see is CNC, some lumber stacked on a wall, and then there's a computer, and then this tiny little space for Arturo to flip into.
Not a wide guy, so I could just.
I had to go. I was like, all right, man, cool. Might never see you again.
There's nothing.
And here we are, man. And here we are.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we all fit there. Not really. I mean, you can stand on the side that you're not using while the CNC's running.
Yeah, but that thing's like having 2 extra employees, so.
Yeah.
That one, because that one is so powerful. It is literally having 2 extra employees.
You can gang up 3 sheets of plywood and cut them all at once on that thing, probably.
It depends. I'd rather go with Dusko ordered a 4x8s. Mm-hmm. So I have actually the 4x8 stocked on one side of the CNC. So then we'll use the other side. But normally I'll go with a 5x10 or 5x12 sheet apply. I'm going to get a Russian birch sheet, which I was going to get with PJ the other day. That's a 5x10, so I can cut out 5-foot circles for my dining table.
Did you say Russian birch?
Yeah, they got Russian birch.
Hey, you know what? If you want to cut
birch?
Oh my god.
So is there any difference between Baltic and Russian birch?
The Russian Baltic birch is the one that has the multiple layers. That has a bunch of layers. The regular birch ply, it doesn't have as many layers.
Oh, I think. All right, you're talking.
You should ask Dusko what the difference is between.
Yeah, because isn't he?
He's from the former Yugoslavia.
I was waiting for that. I knew it.
He knows all about that stuff.
It's actually I took a picture of it yesterday. It has multiple, a ton of layers. So Rocker sells it. Everybody, that's the real Russian birch.
Like the 13 ply instead of the 5 ply.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that is a lot. Yeah.
It has 12 or 13 of them.
Actually, Chris, that looks a lot like the plywood that we have in my shop right now for the.
You guys have a lot less. You guys have regular birch.
Is it?
Yeah.
I've seen
it. It has a lot. It has 7 or 8.
Yeah.
I think our plywood is the Chinese plywood because it got me high as hell last night when we were sawing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I was coughing up a storm, man. I don't even think that termites don't even like that stuff, man.
The Russian birch ply uses marine grade glue. If it wasn't mistaken. Yeah, it's a lot.
That's stronger. A big difference. That's a big difference. Yeah, it's waterproof. It won't delaminate.
Right.
Which is, I guess it makes no difference. It's going to be an inside table.
All right, they're usually Russian ply. You can use it. It just doesn't have voids. It doesn't have anything. It's perfect. So,
all right. So one last tabletop fastening method that I just thought of too is threaded inserts with bolts in a wide slot, basically.
A wide slot. Yes,
I've done that. That's how I attach the legs too.
Yeah. And if you video you turning the tabletop fastener into the tabletop and do it on slow motion and put it on Instagram, you're guaranteed at least 12 to 13,000 views. So,
absolutely.
I'm going to take apart the table that I have in the house.
Oh my gosh. If you have a Lindley jig borer, a small milling machine, you can actually mill your own slots into metal, which is good. If you buy table legs from tablelegs.com, usually they have slot in them.
Yeah, they have white slots.
Or even if poor man's way, not poor man's, an easy way to do it if you don't have a way to drill a slot into metal is to just drill an oversized hole and put your screw in the center or the inside of that hole with a big fender washer, and it'll move. It'll be able to move, no problem.
Yep. That works too.
Just use a pan head screw so it doesn't, it's not doesn't have that trumpeted flared end to it.
countersunk.
Yeah.
So, Caleb, I think you wanted to address, and I'm down to address it too, as far as shop maintenance items that you put off for way too long, because I mean, I got some too. So,
oh boy,
let us know what you got.
Yeah, sure. I thought you were gonna go somewhere else, so I'm good with this one. Yeah,
not sexual way, man. Not sexual. No procrastination.
Yeah. So sharpening table saw blades is a big one for me, and jointer and planer knives. Man, I'm so bad about. Like, I love the whole, if you nick a planer knife, all you have to do is offset one and it'll cancel out the error. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Or I can just sand that line forever until I start burning wood, and then I'll change all of them.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
And because it's just such a pain in the butt to align those things, I avoid it like the plague. So yeah.
What planer do you have?
Okay, so this could be a small story. I had a Shopsmith Pro planer, which is the standalone Shopsmith, so it's not part of the system. And it was cool because it had two motors, the drive motor and a feed motor with infinite speed on the feed motor. That was really nice. Ooh. But something was up with the dust collection on it, and it just started clogging a lot on me, and I was struggling. So I started looking. I was like, okay, I'd like to have a bigger planer. Who wouldn't? So I started looking, and in my hometown, someone listed a Woodmaster 718. Ooh. And all he had was a picture of the badge and a picture of his invoice, and he had the Pro Pack. So I'm like, okay, it's just literally a picture of the logo and a picture of his invoice from 2010. And it's like, I have the original palette, and this thing needs some TLC. And it was from my hometown, like 3 hours away, and it's close to the lake. So I was like, is this a flood thing? Did it get knocked off the truck? Like, what's the deal? So I call the guy, and he's like, yeah, so I had this great idea because we were going to build a house, and I was going to make all the molding. So I bought this, and I never took it out of the box. And you know how humidity is here. Oh, God. So it's got a lot of surface rust. But yeah, so I got a Woodmaster 718 Pro Pack, which means it has the planing head, it has the drum sander, it's got the molding knife, it's got the gang saw, the rip saw setup and everything, the polybed board. It goes for like $4,000 now. I got it for $750. The whole thing new in the box.
A deal and a half.
So that's my planer now. Yeah. That was like the deal of a lifetime. I'll never see it like that again. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing, dude.
So have you used all the molder head and ending saw?
I've only used the planer because I got this in the middle of cranking out this table, and I was a little time crunched. I set it up. Yeah, I got this like 3 weeks ago.
Wow. Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
So I haven't even put the Velcro on the drum sander head yet, just because I set it up just to be able to get through, finish planing the top as I was going through this table, and that's it.
That's awesome. That's really good.
And now my dust collector's undersized, so I'm like,
I see it hanging out there over in the corner. I see what you got out there. The dust collection. It's like a 2-hour. Oh no,
that's the Jet 1.5 horsepower Cyclone, like the JCDC or something. Yeah, it's a 1.5 horse Cyclone.
Oh yeah, you got to upgrade that a little bit.
Yeah, which it was.
Or is that 110 or 220?
It is 110. It is 110. So it's one of the smaller units, and I've got it ducked with 6-inch piped everything, and it was cool for most of my stuff until I got an 18-inch planer.
Yeah, like the amount of chips that a planer actually creates, and like the weight of all that. I mean, you need something with some juice to it, which is
because it I'd say it pulls probably 70% of the chips out of the machine. The nice thing is it doesn't clog; they just kind of come out. But that thing comes with like a 10-gallon drum. I swear it takes like 2 passes, and I have to empty my dust collector. It's absurd. Like I had 2 18-inch panels for my tabletop, and I'd run one through, run the other one through, and have to empty the DC. Like it's full.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You know, it's kind of interesting. So I just have a little rigid lunchbox planer, but if I hook a shop vac up to the dust collection will clog pretty much guaranteed. But if I don't hook up dust collection, I just have a hose that's coming from the dust port into some sort of can or a separator. Yeah. It works plenty fine. Like it's something with the application of like the suction that will cause the chips to compress in certain spots in the vacuum hose. Like it's just that like little bit of applied pressure that creates that, which is super weird. So
no, I have the Harbor Freight with the what is it? Oneta or the cyclone.
That's what I had before.
With the
Harbor Freight with the
5-inch. Yeah, but it's a 5-inch all the way around, and it has the canister on the bottom, the cardboard canister.
Yeah, my Delta dust collector is only hooked up to my table saw, which is, I mean, really the primary tool that I use for pretty much everything.
Right, so that makes sense. I don't have it on my CNC. I got to connect it to my CNC.
Yeah,
but I need it a little bit closer than where it is, because the further away, it loses suction. So I got to figure out a way to bring it closer. But I have it.
With all these issues we're having with DC, though, I think PJ might be onto something just using his lungs.
Yeah, I'm sure. Sinus cancer is not a thing.
No.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, it is bad. I use a dust mask all the time. It depends what I'm cutting. Like I'll be cutting the plywood today, so I'll use a dust mask. It's very fine.
Yeah.
If it's like walnut, I'm like, ooh, wow.
So Caleb, actually, you reminded me of something too. As far as say episode 3 that we had done, and we had the whole issue of no, it was the talk about SawStop and talk about patent law, etc. And it's funny because I actually had a sort of, I don't want to say a full change of heart, but I want to say that somebody had sort of informed me of the real story behind SawStop afterwards, and the story behind the patent and how it all came about. And you have a lot of expertise in this area because you wrote a paper on this in law school, right?
Yeah, I did. So part of law school, you have to write a big paper, as you know. It's called your seminar paper. And I did a health law seminar and was super bored. And then I realized, oh, hey, like this whole SawStop thing, because this was when the debate was raging strong because the CPSC was about to make the rule. I was like, that's kind of health related. So I can get away with making a woodworking paper for law school, and I'll actually be interested to write it. So, yeah, that's what I wrote my whole paper for law school on, SawStop.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that I remember, because we had brought it up is like, I want to say that we can almost in a way kind of demonize the guy that started SawStop as far as, him withholding this technology. Really, I think we were just trying to make that comparison. But I mean, enlighten us a little bit as to how exactly this all came about. Like what drove this guy to go out and seek this patent essentially?
Sure. And I've had this talk a few other times. So I'm going to start with a disclosure. I'm not like a huge Stephen Gass advocate. I don't think he's like the best, most person ever who just wants good for all of mankind, because apparently it's come across that way. I'm just going to say that if you want to crap all over him, you have to crap on everyone else because they're no better. I'm going to start with that. But basically, right, so Stephen Gass, he is a patent attorney, and which if you're going to be into IP, you have to have a STEM degree. So he was an engineer as well. And it was just one day he's like, hey, this is kind of stupid that table saws have been around forever and they like maim people all the time. So in his garage, he figured out how to use just conductivity to detect flesh sensing, and then eventually figured out the system. Like, hey, had the bare bones, right? Came up with a prototype like this works. This needs to be a thing. So he patented it and then went around to a lot of saw companies just soliciting it, like, hey, I came up with this thing. I think this is going to be great. And you can make a lot of money and it's going to help people. And, people won't be losing parts of their body anymore, and I can make some money. He didn't want to make saws. And everyone told him, haha, safety doesn't sell. And this just seems kind of weird to us. We're a little scared, and he wasn't quite sure what was going on there. Then he was actually close to closing a deal with Ryobi. They were in contract. Ryobi was actually going to license his tech. And one of the things everyone says is that he was asking for an outrageous fee. The number I always hear that comes up is 8%. He wanted an 8% licensing fee. I have no context for whether that's outrageous or not outrageous. Just that's what he wanted. His licensing license 8% of wholesale was the fee he was going for, which, considering this is like brand new, super innovative, like truly a new tech on the block. Like this isn't, I tweaked something everyone's been doing. This is like this is sliced bread, right? No one's done anything like this before. So, And then there was an industry conference where I want to say PTI, Power Tool Institute, is the lobbying organization that's kind of shields all of the power tool industry. And their attorney got up and said, basically, hey, so, there's been talk about injury mitigation on table saws. Well, we've been sued a lot by people getting hurt on table saws. However, the standard for product design issues under tort law is an alternative reasonable design. If there's a alternative reasonable design, that would prevent an injury, then your design is flawed. If there's no alternative reasonable design, then your design's okay. And he said, if anybody adopts a technology that would prove an alternative reasonable design, however, if nobody uses the technology, then we can say there's no alternative reasonable design. And the proof there's no alternative reasonable design is that nobody has used it. So he's basically saying, hey, if any one of us starts using this, we're all open to liability for table saw injuries. If nobody uses it, nobody can get sued, or at least nobody can lose a lawsuit and have to start paying millions of dollars in damages.
Collusion.
Right. And then Stephen Gass stopped hearing back from Ryobi. And he's like, okay. So he went to the CPSC, the Consumer Protection Safety Council. And this is where a lot of people get upset because they're like, oh my God, he tried to get the government to tell people they had to use this stuff. It's like, that's one view. Another view is saying he's going, wow, you're just letting people, like tens of thousands of people, lose body parts because you don't want your bottom line to be affected. And I have an answer. This is dumb. And I'll try not to get into the whole economics of that because I don't think it's a rule would actually make it cheaper in my view. But at that point, so he went to the CPSC and they're like, yeah, this seems like a good idea, but we have to investigate. And that normally takes a long time. So not too long after that, he decided, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to have to start a saw company if we want to get this technology out there. So he started a saw company and they sold like hotcakes, even though everyone was saying, hey, safety doesn't sell. And then he proved them wrong. So then they came up with alternative technology together as a conglomerate. Bosch sold it as the Reax, and then he sued them. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, he sues. Like, well, under patent law, if you don't enforce your patent, then your patent's no good. Because if too many people infringe and you don't enforce your rights, and then you sue someone later, they can literally defend themselves by saying, well, why are you picking on me? 3 other people have done it and you didn't care about them, so you've lost your patent rights. A patent is useless if you don't enforce it. So you may as well give it away for free. One of the counter arguments that comes in here is seatbelts. Everyone likes to talk about the guy that invented the seatbelts who worked for Volvo. Well, he worked for Volvo, so that was a Volvo patent. At the time, seatbelts were a hot issue in government regulation, and nobody knew what multiple governments, right? So Europe and America and Canada were going to do as far as saying this is what the regulation is going to be. So Volvo came up with this design, and they're like, hey, this is better than anyone has. So instead of just trying to shell it out and make money, they went, you know what? The best move for us would be to give this away for free, talk to all of our competitors and say, let's make this a voluntary standard. And we'll all agree that we'll all do this and tell the governments to make this the regulation. Then we're all in compliance and we stay in control. So that's why the seatbelt technology was given away for free. So everyone's like, oh, well, that guy gave away his technology. He's like, well, that company did because that was the smartest move than waiting for the government to come up with something stupid that they had to figure out. So yeah, I don't think he's horrible. But if you want to go, oh, well, he should have given it away or he's just, whatever. It's like, okay, that's cool. But how is every other table saw manufacturer who went, oh, that wouldn't sell. And actually, we don't want to do that because if you did that, we'd be open to liability for the fact that our saws hurt people. Oh, and if we pay your licensing fee, that would hurt our margin. Like, they're not dickheads, but he is. It's like, hold on. Isn't every argument you want to make against that guy the same for everyone who refused to adopt his technology and then stole his technology? And where I get really frustrated is 2014, the CPSC, Consumer Protection Safety Council, pushed out their proposed rule, or maybe it was 2015. I don't remember. It was fairly recent where they're finally like, hey, we've been sitting on this for a freaking decade. And it doesn't make any sense why we haven't made a rule yet. So here's our proposed rule. We think we're going to make a rule that requires injury mitigation systems. Doesn't require anyone to use SawStop's technology, Gass's technology. And at that time, that's when he sold it to Festool because he was getting a lot of bad press because people were saying, oh, you're only pushing this through to make yourself money. So he sold all his rights. to say, I'm completely free and clear of this. Now, I just think this needs to be a requirement. And the CPSC, they come up with performance standards, not method standards. So the rule would not say that anyone has to use his tech, just they did all the tests to figure out, okay, how, at what speed and what limited injury, and however you want to achieve that goal, you do it. Well, as soon as they pushed their proposed rule, which is an advance notice to the industry to say, hey, this is coming down the pipeline, so you guys start figuring it out. So when we make it a rule with the implementation timeline, you guys are ready. Well, then the Power Tool Institute spent tens of thousands of dollars lobbying Congress and had put in one of the draft omnibus budget bills that the CPSC was not allowed to use any of that funding to make any rule about injury mitigation in table saws. They didn't say that it was wrong or that they couldn't do it or that they should rule against. They were just saying, basically, you just can't touch this. So, which to me is like saying, oh, you're right and this should happen, but we forbid you for using our money to do your job. And I'm like, wow, but those are the good guys. Those are the good guys, right?
Yeah, PJ and I were talking last night. It was kind of funny, actually, about this topic because I essentially gave him the heads up. I was like, this is going to be something that's going to come up. And there's like a book that we read in elementary school. It's called The Toothpaste Millionaire. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this book, but it's essentially like a kid who comes up with like good tasting toothpaste, and like all the major toothpaste companies essentially blackball him. And it's just the story behind that. And it's like almost dead on synonymous with like this whole system. Like there's like this collusion, and they're preventing all that.
Intimidation, basically. Like if you're the little guy, it's really easy for you to get pushed out of anything. It's it's a hometown hero story though. Like this guy, the SawStop guy. Hey, I can't say that I wouldn't do what he's doing right now. If you get pushed, you're getting pushed around by a bunch of big companies, and you don't really know the ropes yet.
Go on your own.
It can be pretty intimidating. And then if you have a good enough idea and you believe in yourself, man, get out there and look at him now. I own one.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people get upset because like, I'm an American, so I should be able to cut my hand off on my tool if I want to. No, you have to make me pay more for a tool that won't let that happen. Yeah. It's like, well, you can still hit bypass and cut your hand off if you want to, dude. Like, it's
Mr. Cool. Seven fingers over here saying like, oh, I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
Exactly. Well, and here's where my paper got really fun, right? And if I go too deep in this, you can tell me to shut up, right? So I had two economic theories about why it made more sense for SawStop. One was just basic numbers, right? The table saw industry is worth about $300 million in the U.S. annually. Guess what the estimated cost of injuries annually is?
Oh, man. I can't imagine.
Probably
in the billion.
Hundreds of...
$4 billion.
Whoa.
Literally, the cost of table saw injuries per year is over 10 times the value of the industry.
That's amazing.
And that comes from medical fees, lost wages, pain and suffering damages, and everything. And so where this gets interesting, and I think there's a cost shifting analysis to happen here, because everyone's like, oh, well, you're going to put people out of business because they won't be able to afford a table saw. It's like, well, how many people go out of business because their employees cut their fingers off and then they get sued? Or they've got to pay whatever issues to their employee and take care of them, right?
Yeah, for the rest of their life. Yeah.
But the reality is, who's getting hurt on table saws? It's a lot of low-skilled workers who were trained improperly on contractor-grade saws. Guess what happens when they get injured? They go on disability and they get workers' comp. So where's that money come from? It comes from taxpayers who are not woodworkers. So what you're saying is everyone who doesn't participate in the hobby or industry needs to pay for the harm and risk we're accepting by doing it. By making SawStop required, what you're doing is shifting all of that risk, financially the risk, which is cost, to the people who actually choose to participate by making them pay for the technology that prevents the injury. So instead of everyone having to pay for what I have to do, now I have to pay for what I want to do, which is more, in my view, a more American philosophy on top of just basic economics, right? If you have a premium service, you charge more for that. So if the safety technology is not required, then it's going to be right. And we see the premium price that comes on SawStop because they're the only people who sell it, right? There is no alternative. But when you say, but you don't pay extra for your car because it has seatbelts and airbags, because they have to. So if you tell everyone you have to put this in there, you don't find a way to upcharge it. You find a way to make it work as cheaply as possible, because you got to put it in everything. It's not a feature anymore. It's just a baseline requirement. And that would make the technology more accessible than it is today, because you can't just raise the cost of all table saws twofold. You've got to try to make your price points and just add it at cost, not as an upsell for more profit. So
yeah, it's a built-in, like you said, not an upsell.
Yeah,
you don't go to the car lot and go,
standard,
I want the one with side curtain airbags and seatbelts. It's like, okay, that's going to be an extra 10%. It's like, why does it cost me $2,000? It costs like $50. It's like, well, or you can buy the one that doesn't have it. I'm like, no, you can't. That's why the price isn't any different, because
that's true, man.
They have to stick it in there. They can't sell it if they don't.
So where do you think the industry is going to go? Like, do you think that injury mitigation technology is going to be something that they start implementing in things that are like other than table saws, say, like
maybe a miter saw?
Yeah, as it changes a little bit, I think so. Right now, there is a huge issues with just how the technology functions fundamentally, at least SawStops. So, because as we all know, SawStop, it has a brake that throws into the blade, which stops it. That inertia has to go somewhere, so it uses that inertia to carry the blade beneath the table, and that prevents all the energy from just going into the saw. Well, you're talking cabinet saws, and they have their job site saw now, but there's a lot of energy that gets transferred that has to go somewhere. The Bosch was a different answer. It used an explosive cartridge, similar to an airbag, so it generated the inertia by having a small explosion that forced the blade, and so it didn't damage the blade. Felder just announced like last week, the week before, that they have a new tech, and no one's really sure how it works yet. They haven't talked about it, but as far as, if everyone's going to integrate it, the initial SawStop patents are going to expire between 2021, 22, 23, really soon, next couple of years. And I'm sure we'll see them coming out. Now, a lot of people say, oh, well, you can just modify a patent and refile it with the change and it's extended. Well, the only thing protected under the extra time is the modification, not the baseline technology. So the baseline technology is going to be, it's going to be public domain pretty soon.
Wow. Okay.
Which, and the baseline technology is using, monitoring an electrical charge and using the conductance to initiate some type of mitigation that stops and moves the blade. So that basic concept, which is what Bosch infringed on, is going to be public domain soon. Now, whatever snazzy little upgrades and tweaks and changes they've made that they've patented, those will still be protected. But hey, put a charge on a blade. If someone touches it and it changes, then we use that to detect. That's going to be open.
So, Chris, I remember asking Chris about the whole Festool domino patent. So that's the same applies there. With the, I know the domino is pretty heavily patented, and their stuff is about to expire. So if they just tweak it and refile, then that kind of opens the door for all the other companies to come out with a domino type tool.
Yep. So whatever changes are still protected would be protected, but the baseline idea of, hey, we made a router bit that goes forward and wiggles. Like that idea, assuming that was the first patent, that idea would be open domain. So whatever like new little tweaks they figured out, those might be protected, but that basic idea, and that's where the money is, because everyone can find their way around hey, now we figured out to make 3 different sizes using this mechanism. Well, other people can have multi sizes. They just need a different mechanism until that one loses protection. But that wiggling bit idea is the moneymaker.
Okay. Yeah, that's I'm excited to find a Makita version of a domino. I'll put that on the Makita wall.
Yeah, D-Watt for me. D-Watt.
That would be nice.
Because I think the domino is a big entry into Festool. Why a lot of people spend so much money and just go all in.
Absolutely.
Right. There's no other alternative. There's other good sanders and other good vacuums and dust extractors, but
but there's not another domino.
There's not a domino. No,
I stuck with the biscuit joiner.
Mafel has it's called the Duo Dowler. It's actually cheaper than the domino. And I wonder if the strength is really a lot different, because let's say like the Mafel Duo Dowler, it'll drill in basically 2 dowels at once.
Yeah.
So more like if we'll call them floating tenons, which is what they are. So you got more material going in for each joint. Let's say you put the 2 dowel setup every the strength of a joint, is it really that exclusive to the Festool domino, just because of the shape of the domino being a flat thing, whatever. But the reason why they can sell that $2 is because it's literally two drill bits that go in. The thing looks just like a domino, but the bits don't go side to side, so they're safe.
Yeah, there was some sort of device that I saw where it was really similar to a doweling jig. I can't remember the name of it, but it was literally like a doweling jig, except it had three drill collets that were like right next to each other, and then they all kind of like overlapped a little bit, and then it took like this funny looking, almost like a domino, but as like three dowels that were glued together practically.
Bead block.
Yes, that bead block. Yeah,
I have it right here. This is what you're talking about? Let me see if I can share it. This?
Yes.
Yes.
That device.
Oh, it actually has dogs. I'm waiting for the cow.
Chris has got a lot of action going on over at home.
I know.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on over here right now.
Which that like partially,
that's cool.
It's cool because now you're getting away from the issue of a dowel, which is a single dowel is a rod, which turns into a pivot point, right? That's the whole idea behind the domino floating tenon, is it holds things flat because you can't pivot around it. But the downside with the beadlock is, now you got to drill 5 holes, which is the same idea of, well, you could use 2 dowels. It's like, yeah, but now I got to drill 2 holes. Dominoes, one and done.
Yeah. And PJ had his idea for the chain mortiser and making these like giant like floating tenons.
Yes. Yeah. If you plunge that chain mortiser in, man, it's a 2-inch by 3/4 inch mortise. So, and I can make you all day. I can make basically a 1x2 to use and chop it up into short pieces and make my own oversized dominoes. And I know that idea's been floating around in my head. I really need to stop talking about it and start being about it, just to see if it's actually a thing. It might be a thing. Could be a total revolution. I love
chain mortisers. They're such like just a wildly insane death machine of a tool.
Dude, it's the equivalent of a dado stacked chainsaw.
It's amazing.
Basically, it's like 3 wide. 3 chainsaws wide, plunging.
We're gonna do that test with the dominoes.
I know. For the last 6 months, I've been talking about doing it. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
We got to do it.
Riding too many horses with one ass. Yeah.
Well, I guess also the question about that test is like, what exactly are we trying to prove? Like, is it like a speed thing? Is it a strength thing? Like, what exactly are we trying to?
Everything you just said.
Good question. Like, it's an alternative to maybe. I know that chain mortiser is not a very popular tool unless you're a timber framer, but I have one. So instead of me spending $1,500 on a Festool domino, maybe I can get away with doing that. So, and it's an option. It's, there's some little niche videos out there on YouTube. Maybe my chain loop thing. It's not a very popular video because not a lot of people make their own loops of chainsaw chain. But for the one person that might be out there looking for a different way to do things based on the tools they already have, there you go. Enter PJ.
So what you're saying is, instead of spending $1,500 on a domino and a vac that I can, use to glue up my 4/4 tabletop and legs or whatever, I can spend $2,000 on exposed chainsaw blades that can rip my hand off that are too big for my 4/4 lumber.
That is precisely what I'm getting at. Yes. Now, the initial cost is not going to be part of this review at all, because obviously, yes, the chain mortiser is much more expensive.
But I've got a great substitute for domino. It's more expensive and way more dangerous and won't work for most of your woodworking. But besides that, it's fantastic.
Can that chainsaw mortiser do angled mortises? Like say very specifically? Yeah.
It can. Definitely can. Yeah, you can change the angle. Actually, no, I'm sorry, it can't. But you could make a wedge for the base plate and plunge in at an angle. So you could do that.
It probably fixes low T though, right? If you have low T,
it does. You're actually supposed to sharpen the blade with testosterone as the lubricant for the file.
Because I don't think the domino does that, but
no,
chainsaw mortiser would.
Definitely not. No, I'm sorry to say, but you need to take a beta blocker if you're if you're sharpening the bits of a Festool domino.
That's why you that's why you lost your hair, right? All the excess heat.
Oh yeah,
excess burn the hair right off your head.
Welcome to the club, man. Welcome to the club.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Being able to do the angled mortises though with the domino is probably like one of the best benefits. And the accuracy of that thing is just absolutely bananas. Like
if you learn how to use it, like the little tricks for it. Oh man, the thing is awesome. I love it because I have the GSM, right? Yeah, GSM domino joiner. So it has all the little holes and all that, and it can do angles. Well, it could, but like you have to make a whole contraption just to do angles.
Yeah, make a wedge as a to affix the wedge to the base plate so that you're pressing it at an angle.
And it isn't cheap. That thing's like $300 for the set. But I mean,
is that the thing that guy from Guy's Woodshop just got? Is that the same machine?
Let me see if I can pull them up real quick. Dowling Jig. I have it here. I'm pulling it up on Amazon. Oh, here we go. Let me just share it. Yeah, it's actually cheaper. It's at $200 now.
$200?
Yeah, right here.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, let me put it on the screen. There you go. Yeah, so it has the whole kit. So you got like a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and 3/4 or something like that.
Yeah, you're drilling 5 holes. Yeah, okay.
Well, you don't have to. But you don't have to.
We were talking about 2, but now it's 5.
You don't have to though, because it's just for reference purposes. So you have the pins, and you can drill 1 hole and then reference off of that one, and then drill whatever else. Yeah, like it's pretty cool. Like set. So you can. It has a lot of reference. You have all the measurements there. You got your 1/4 inch, and you can go your depths. You can hook it up to like a block. It's actually
That's pretty neat.
It's pretty.
I can't imagine trying to successfully glue something like that up though. Like,
what do you mean?
With all those little dowels, like the one in the picture, the example.
I made a chest out of it, and it's pretty easy. It's quick too. Like I can go as fast as a domino can. For sure with that, and I've done it. I built a big chest with that thing.
Maybe that's our 3-way test. You got the GSM, the Chris with the Festool, and me with the big dangerous skin terror upper.
It won't. It's not. It won't be as party strength. I don't know. Maybe we gotta test that. That'd be
interesting that I haven't seen a ton of actually is guys using say a domino to create a through tenon. Like I believe Caleb, you did a bench actually with a through tenon, right? Or was it a stool or something like that? I know that
I've done a couple through tenons. I did a bench with a wedge through tenon, that whole like snazzy. And then I also did my only like big hit video was the walnut dining table all live edge, and I did through tenons. I had like a low stretcher. Yeah, not an apron. Then it would be a stretcher that went through the legs and stuck out with the live edges. So I like cut off the live edges, did everything square, then glued the live edges back on when I stuck it through, so it looked like it was, growing.
Live edge is where it's at.
Yeah, you can basically set your domino so that way you can do, a tenon anywhere, right? Like in the middle of a board if you want. Like you're not limited, say, like with a hollow chisel mortiser to certain depths that are off the machine.
Yes.
So I haven't really seen anybody that just takes their domino and just plops it in the middle of a board somewhere. Let's say in the middle of a table. Is
Jimmy
that
Duress has done it?
Yeah, Jimmy Duress. Like 3 years ago.
Yeah, another tool. You can definitely take a chain mortiser and place it wherever you want to.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, just thinking about this, you could like probably make a straight edge and use a router, and then do a plunge cut. And either like go to a router table, use a router to round over just some stock to make a floating tenon like a domino, or square off the ends of your mortise that you made with your router because it's going to be round. Just square them off and then use square stock. Or even better, right, to have to like not make a floating tenon, you could cut your stock longer and then just cut the end of it down to a tenon to go in that mortise.
Yeah.
Now you're getting into Matthias Wandel territory with the Panto router. Have you ever seen the Panto router where you can have a little template?
That thing's awesome.
Yeah. That's he would do like double and triple tenons.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I was just being sarcastic together. That's how mortise and tenon has been done for 4,000 years.
Yeah, that's what you're getting at. It's a piece longer, and then cut the tiny end, stick it into the hole. I'm sorry, man.
It was.
There it is.
Yeah, these are pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
Panta router. Arturo, now,
Yes,
given the name Panta router, you have to wear pants while you're using it.
dude, I only wear shorts, and if that, you get boxer briefs every once in a while. That's pretty much it. That's all you're gonna get.
How are we doing on topics? I was out for a little while with internet issues, but what
we're just
you guys
literally floating
I think
around.
we've covered none so far.
Yeah, going in between here and there.
Yeah, but we're killing it right now. Arturo, do you have anything for us since PJ and I are super unorganized today?
Oh, I'm super unorganized. I didn't even know. It's been busy the whole week, getting orders out, get the tables out. We actually did this with Morningwood yesterday.
That's nice.
We lasered some coasters that they wanted as samples.
That's really nice.
Yeah, it actually came out fresh, man. After some test trials here and there, we got them burning right on the teak. So it came out really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, some Burmese teak. Look at that. It's beautiful.
Oh, Burmese is the way to go, man. Burmese, yeah. Sustainably sourced. I like that. That's
yeah. It's just more expensive, but it is like
it's more those are sustainable teak farms, man.
Yeah.
And
it's a big difference, like in between the two teaks. Like you visually see a difference.
Well, of course, that grows a lot faster. Like old school teak is, I mean, you can't really get it anymore because it's protected. They can't cut any more old growth teak down. But the growth rings are way tighter. You know, similar with pine, whatever. It's like the version of the teak version of Dade County pine. You know, it's extinct or very, very highly protected. But it's a much superior wood.
Yeah, tenfolds. So then been doing that. I have a whole actually the boxes that we did last week, PJ. Gotta make the final run of that with their material. And got some trays for Father's Day to do. Okay. So this week has been crazy busy, man. That's why I didn't even come up with CNC. And I got Dusko stuff today too. So
come on, man. Oh yeah, we gotta get to work, man. Let's go.
Yeah.
Thank you, by the way. I last minute gift for my my father and his wife campsite sign.
Oh yeah,
by Mr. Arturo
on the Dade County Pine,
designed by David from Sage Sign Co. and cut on the CNC by the Chopmaster himself.
There you go.
Yeah. Actually, Arturo, how was routering that Dade County Pine? Like, I mean, that stuff is crazy dense. I mean, did it feel any different?
On the CNC, not really. It was comparable to pine, like regular pine. Mm-hmm. So we ran it twice, so clean up the edges, but it was the same.
It didn't splinter at all, though. I think
pine usually doesn't. No, the pine, when I do like the signs and stuff, I do it out of like regular pine.
Yeah, like just
pine boards.
Not even yellow pine, like white pine. Yeah,
the crappy stuff. But they're easy to stain and they look nicer. Cover them out.
Those not in the know. Dade pine, is that just plain pine or just old growth? Or
it's very old growth, and it was harvested to extinction because I guess you could call it the colonization of South Florida. That's the lumber that they used. There are even some Dade County pine trees that were used to make the railroad, the original, like the Flagler Railroad.
Yep.
So a gold mine would be to find one of those old railroad ties laying around in the Keys somewhere. That's actually Dade County pine. There's a lot of oak, and now they're all concrete, but whatever. That mostly all the houses built in Dade County and Monroe County and some in Broward were made from this Dade County pine, hence the name. Yeah. But it's a super slow growing tree. So basically, when the last one was cut down, kind of like the Lorax, when the last one was cut down, that was it. They had to start outsourcing material. They had to bring in stuff from everywhere else. But now, 100 years later, some of these houses are getting demolished, and there's a pretty huge market for the reclaimed wood, obviously. But man, you can't even drive a nail through this Dade County pine stuff, man. Like you'd have to pre-drill a hole to put a nail.
You can also get it from the boat dock pilings. That's
true.
Where I've seen it from. I've gotten the pine the Dade County pine I've gotten is from boat dock pilings.
Yeah. And it's so dense and so sappy. Termites don't want it. There are some parts, maybe towards the top, the meristematic tissue, like the top of the log, that's like softer and less sappy, that the termites would actually eat. But all the heartwood, all like the original hard stuff from the good section of the trunk of the tree, man, 100 years later, totally unaffected by termites, totally unaffected by moisture, fungus.
Yeah, you're talking about these boat docks. they're still in the water. There's pilings. They're in the water.
They're sitting in the water. Yeah.
And they pull them out and they're fine.
Yep.
You don't have to dry.
Like the logs.
It's just so dense.
Like cypress logs, the sinker cypress logs, the same thing. They have so much sappiness. It's such a dense piece of wood that they're unaffected by outside nastiness.
So Arturo, you said that you're not having any problems machining that wood.
No, not at all. Actually,
and yours came from boat docks. That's interesting because I saw a video about an old school, like I want to say it was a Dutch sawmill that was like water wheel driven, and all the logs are brought from the water. And one of the things they talked about is when all the wood that was moved in the water or stored in the water, just because of osmosis, all the sugars leach out of the wood before it's dried because it's in the water. And apparently the sugar content of the wood has a lot to do with it moving as it dries. And so said that was so apparently like wood movement as it dries, like just trying to dry your logs is, I mean, it's always been there, but it's a little bit of a newer thing as far as industry goes, because old industry used to always move logs by water.
Yes.
And so they actually dried a lot flatter. So just thought that was
no way. That's really interesting, man.
Yeah, it's like new tech and old tech.
It was just one of those inadvertent things like, hey, we've got all these trucks and trains now. We don't have to float logs down the river. It's like, and everything's warping really bad when it dries.
That's so funny. I wonder how they figured that out. Like, because there's so many variables that they could probably try to identify. And then they figured out, like, oh yeah, it's because we were floating down the,
I thought that was really interesting, that documentary, because they're like, how do you keep your stuff from warping? It's like, well, it stays in the water so long, the sugar leaches out and everything stays pretty flat. I was like, wow. I've never heard that before. So I thought that was interesting. I was curious, Arturo, because you said you had boat dock piling, so obviously they've been in the water forever. So I was like, did you see any? Because you'd think they'd be sopping wet, so then they'd be moving a lot. But you said
they're dry. They're dry, like literally dry. Every time I get a piece from it, it's dry, and it's incredible.
I haven't experimented. Again, this is another thing that I need to stop talking about and actually be about. I want to make like a low flat tray, water sealed tray, so it's waterproof or alcohol proof, and be able to sit a freshly cut slab into this trough basically of alcohol, so that the alcohol soaks into the wood and essentially pushes out the moisture from the wood in like a super fast sped up drying process.
Like a pinnacle bath.
Exactly. Just try and I wonder if the alcohol would react with the sugars, with the glucose in the wood somehow too. I won't, again, it'll be an experiment. There's not much about it on the interwebs, but just kind of like thinking about how, water and alcohol react. Obviously, they don't mix at all. The capillary action of alcohol is stronger than the capillary action of water. So basically the wood would be soaking up the alcohol in a stronger way than it soaks up water. So it'd push the water out, and you'd see like a slick of water on top of on the bottom. Of the tray.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And you've got a lot of like half drunk beer bottles, so you could fill that up pretty quick.
Well, yeah. That's true, dude. I never finish a beer. I rarely. Well, I finished 2 yesterday actually when Chris was here. Chris gets me in the drinking mood.
Oh God, I can't wait for tonight.
Like a lower your drink.
What's tonight?
Tonight's the meetup.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
Oh God.
Right. It's all downhill, man. Yeah, that's interesting, bro. That's and what I've seen too is the vacuum kilns.
Yes.
Those are amazing.
Yeah, where I get my walnut from in Wisconsin, they have a vacuum kiln, so that you can place an order of whatever board feet, and in a month and a half they're ready.
That's awesome. I wonder if there's some kind of conversion where I can freaking make a shipping container into a vacuum kiln.
They have shipping containers for vacuum killing.
Yeah,
they that's what they have too. Like they have some type of barn looking thing, and they have containers.
Well, there you go.
So we got to look into that.
Yep.
Yeah. That's going to be way more expensive than the Mafel track saw that you were talking about.
Yeah, but your slabs are ready in like a quarter of the time.
Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say is when we were talking about the water issue and the sugars is that PJ's secret tactic is that he just leaves all his slabs out in the rain down here since it's been missing rain pretty aggressively, and all the sugar washes out of it.
Oh, the sugar just washes right out of it,
But you don't even need rain for there to be enough water, though, do you?
No, there's water in the air.
There's water in the air.
You don't even need rain. It just
we're underwater all the time. Like
I remember,
we have specialized lungs called gills.
2 Christmas ago, when I was actually in Wisconsin for the first time, we bought. I got walnut from there. I got maple and I got ash, and they didn't weigh anything, like nothing. There was no weight to them. And when we brought them down here, that we got here, like the next week, everything weighed like a ton. I was like, what is this?
Yeah, it's a sponge, man. Yep.
And it's just absorbed all the humidity in the air.
Which again, hey, that reverts back to like 2 or 3 podcasts ago, man. You can get it as dry as you want. Like you can put it in a vacuum kiln, get it down to 8%, 10%, super dry, ready to rock. Leave it outside, or leave it in an air conditioned garage, and it'll soak it right back up, man. It's not a one-way street, man. It goes back and forth.
Yeah, that's why you have the wood movement. It absorbs the humidity back and forth. That's why when I do like tables and stuff, I bring them in the house. Because they're usually going to be indoors, so at least it gets conditioned a little bit, with the humidity of an indoor house instead of anything like that. What's up?
Kind of related. You guys work with a lot of rough lumber, right? And I know PJ, you like mill your own stuff. So when you're going rough to finish, whenever you're making a project, one of the big things I read that I do that has helped me a lot, because I'm in Memphis, pretty high humidity area too, is not milling everything over one session, but milling, let it rest, mill it, let it rest. Do you guys do that or no?
I learned that from Mark Spagnuolo, the wood whisperer. He didn't teach me personally, but I watched a video.
That's how I learned it.
And I agree. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
However, I have yet to practice that.
PJ's house will be full of table slabs all over. Yeah, your wife would get a little pissed off.
Yeah.
No,
he's saying like milling, like flattening. Even if I flatten something, the flattened side, the sheared off carbide side versus the rough cut side will now, since the fibers have been sheared off by a carbide knife on one side of the slab, and there's still a rough cut, a chainsaw cut on the bottom side of the slab, the bottom side will more readily absorb moisture than the top side. So we get this cupping up effect. So, basically within the same hour, flatten both sides, get it inside, or get it, sit it up, lean it up against the wall in somewhere where it's going to be close to what its moisture content is going to be as a final piece. Because other than that, I've done that before. Like it's late, let me shut the mill off. It's too loud. I don't want to piss off the neighbors, whatever. Shut it off. I'll do the other side tomorrow. Nope, bad idea, PJ. Because now you got to do it again because it's cupped.
Yeah, I do that. Depending on the front, like I did the walnut set the other day, and I'll have it planed, bring them inside the house, like have it sit for like a day or two, and then put them through the drum sander. And
there you go.
Yeah, it'll be flat. They'll be flat. They won't move after that.
Flat AF.
I'll clamp down stuff to my work surface a lot if I have to like stop, say like it's late night or whatever. I'll take if it's tabletop, like I'll clamp down the tabletop to like my workbench or even my table saw surface, something like that.
Yeah,
that's actually a trick I learned from Rob from Grove and Anchor, because he said he had a bad experience once where he's actually from New York, so completely different climate area. And he was making, I think, a coffee table. It was like a round or something like that. And he said he came back in the shop the next day and the damn thing was like a Pringle. Like it just like curled up on him super bad. So after that, he's like, no longer. Everything's clamped, fixed down, and come back in the next day. And usually there's not any issues with that. So
yeah, fresh cut. I like to leave it a little bit, plain and not use it. Leave it overnight at least. Let it do its thing, and then drop it in the drum sander.
Yeah.
And that's pretty
when you're getting a project close to its final form, you really want to I told this to our buddy Shelby Hahn 500 turns. Like you want to have, if you have any kind of steel structure underneath the slab per se, or steel table legs that you're going to be screwing to the table, once that wood is in its final form, like as flat as you want it to be, you want your steel telling the wood what to do, not the other way around. Because he was having an issue with some table legs that he bought. from tablelegs.com. They came. They were the plate on the top that's supposed to get screwed to the underside of the table was bent. And he's like, do you think that it'll, the wood, as rigid as the wood is, it'll kind, if I put the screws in, it'll kind of fix that bend in the metal. And I said exactly that. I'm like, dude, you want your steel telling the wood what to do, not the other way around, So do some. My suggestion was to do like some heavy duty CPR on that piece of steel to like get it, slowly bend it straight again, and then fasten it to the table so that the wood and the steel aren't fighting with each other, because the steel will win. Yeah,
there's a reason we cut wood with steel and we don't cut steel with wood.
I like that. All right.
Oh, that's a good one.
Quote. Put that on the. Put a timestamp on that one. So
right. We're definitely gonna forget.
That's true. That might become the episode name. We'll see.
There we go.
Yeah. Oh, Chris will decide.
Nice. I feel special now.
There you go, man.
All right, fellas. In the interest of time, I think
we can wrap it up.
Yeah, man.
I think we're there.
I'd like to, thank Caleb. Thank you so much for not making everything sexual. I really appreciate that. And it was awesome to have you on, dude. Like really good stuff. Really good legal content that we can refer to now. Good stuff.
It wasn't meant to be in a sexual way, so not in a sexual way.
Make sure you guys check Caleb out on the YouTubes at You Can Make This Too. Search in the Google search bars. You Can Make This Too. He's all over the place, and on Instagram as well. I'd like to thank everybody for listening and follow along as we progressively get worse at this. Be sure to send any topic requests to askmeaboutmywood@gmail.com, or just simply send any of us a DM on the Instagram or anything like that. Be sure to rate this podcast on YouTube or your social media platform of choice. And thanks very much for listening. We'll talk to you y'all next week.
All right. Later, guys.
Later, guys.
Thanks for